all children by 2015 should have primary school. And for that to be successful, Tamil Nadu state government has tried to create and generate a program now known as the activity-based learning. What was fantastic actually about the result was that the percentage of low achievers reduced and the percentage of those who scored higher increased. And this was just in a period of 9 months. Because of this fundamental change, and they saw the change in the children and how they were learning, the teachers have also kind of participated and are enthusiastic about it. And the government feels that if 1/3 or 2/3 are enthusiastic, we can take the rest along with us.
A voucher is given in the form of check. I mean, it is a replica of check given to anybody in the society. Any school that you feel like you can go and admit your child. Not necessarily only in government school or matriculation school or CBSE school. So the blank check like voucher. So they can go and select the school. That is also one of the agenda in the government, only with the idea that quality of education that is there in the best schools in the locality is made available for an average child of a rural and rustic background.
The voucher system you suggest is probably a good way of allowing parents the choice of any school they want, maybe can provide some competition to government schools. But in some ways, what I see within at least urban India is this revolution is taking place. This grassroots privatization has taken place. Vouchers could supplement it, but really, it's happening already. It's happening here. And it's wonderful to see.
India Today had actually conducted a survey. They said that private schools, some of the elite private schools at best are the better rote factories. Because the activity happens there. Teacher comes there, proprietor sits in the school, and therefore the school appears to function much better. And there is an accountability with the teacher to do certain things. The kind of education that really is supposed to happen as per the national policy for education, that doesn't seem to be happening even in private schools, many private schools.
The paradox is that in private schools, teachers are not being paid properly,
Absolutely.
very low salaries, and yet the accountability on them is very high. But in government schools, they are getting their full salaries, including the 6-pay commission, and yet the accountability and motivation remains.
There has to be a structural reform.
If you were in government, what is the one thing that you would push for to implement so that children can see a better future?
One thing would be deregulate. If we want high quality schools of tomorrow, which are going to be accessed by India 2 and India 3, then we've got to deregulate. We've got to allow private sector companies like iDiscoveri, like Rumi Schools and Empathy in Hyderabad, like SKS and Career Launcher and Educomp, who are all interested in this sector. We've got to give them freedom to bring investment, new ideas, to really have some great model schools of tomorrow. Deregulation.
One is that I'll take my constitutional responsibility very seriously and have a 15-year vision for education, which will be driven across the country, irrespective of who is the SPD, who is the secretary, who is the principal secretary, etc., etc. That is number one. Number two is that this entire myth about resources I will break. Government has a lot of money, and if it is required, I will allocate 15% of the GDP. Forget about 3%, 6%, 15%. Our neighbors have done it. Sri Lanka has done it. Sri Lanka has allocated 12% of its GDP.
Okay, here you.
Brazil has done it. Everybody has done it. The third is that in terms of discharging my responsibility, I may take the help of the private partners. But it is only to discharge my responsibility. It is not to abdicate my responsibility.
Let us not restrict our learning and teaching within the curriculum that is prescribed. Let the children come out of the classroom, go to the field. A physics fellow should go and study how the tractor works. A chemistry fellow should go and find the composition of soil, how it is fertile and useful for a plowman. And the economics fellow should go and study about what is needed, what is supplied and all that. Commerce fellow should go and help the villager how to open an account, how to operate it. Something like activity-based teaching rather than restrict them to learn what is in the text.
I think for building professional competence of teachers, in-service teacher training in a sustainable way. The second thing is like Sahodaya networking, a lot more networking. Maybe each private school does mentoring or hand-holding of maybe 5 geographically close government schools in some way. And, public-private partnerships in other domains which define quality in schools.
Excellent.
There's basically 5 things that we think make a KIPP school a KIPP school. And we think these 5 things are actually the ingredients of any great school. I don't care if it's a traditional public, a public charter school, a private school. And this is kind of what we're out to prove, that these 5 ingredients are what any school needs to be successful. Our 5 pillars are more time on task, choice and commitment, the power to lead, high expectations, and focusing on great results.
We first started with a pilot study where we saw significant differences in both teacher performance and student learning. We then did a much larger study across XSEED and non-XSEED schools, and what we found was that across subjects, across classes, children were doing significantly better with XSEED. And not only were they doing better overall, but they were doing better when it came to application and reasoning, when it came to really applying what they were learning in school. And the other great thing that we saw was that there were more and more children scoring above 60%. So more and more children were getting pushed into the higher brackets of achievement. And that was very encouraging. Parents are seeing that in their children there is a difference in the extent of communication, in the creativity that they display. Children are becoming a lot more independent. I talked about that in their work, both in terms of homework. They're also a lot more interested in their studies. And so they take up stuff on their own a lot more. And leaders have come back and told us that children who were suffering earlier are showing tremendous improvement. The workbooks are pushing children to really think and express themselves in their own way.
How do you run a scaled up quality organization like the IITs?
The fact is that we do have complete freedom in choosing what we teach, in choosing the people we teach, and choosing the people who teach, all 3. I think that should be given to every school.
The teacher does not reach every child in the classroom. Out of 50 children in the classroom, there are about 20 children who are reached. There are those children who fall out. And then they are very traumatized because schooling is a very integral part of their life. So I think the teacher training, teacher in service is an ongoing orientation that has to happen throughout the year.
Hardly any inputs is given in the teacher education program, starting from the mastery of the content. Teacher education program today, even answering as less than about 50% of the question paper, teacher gets the degree. Setting such low standards, we cannot address high quality standards in the quality in education.
I think there are 3 components to education. It's knowledge, know-how, and character. And I think character is the most important component. If we can build character, the other things will follow as a corollary.
So Professor Anand said that they take in the best and they have the right to choose the best. But if that was done in schools, what happens to the other children? If we are going to take the best and create the best, there's nothing great in that. But if we are taking any child who comes in and we can create the best out of them, that is what we are here for.
I mean, you don't have to deprive education for a kid because the parents were not educated. What a private player is doing to avoid this.
Our school believes in hands-on experience, activity-based learning. The children are having a good time. Parents are saying our children are enjoying coming to school. But are they ready for competition? Where are the exams? Where are the books? Where are the textbooks? That's what they're asking. So I think you need to train the parents first.
Look at secondary education. How many schools in the country, for example, have subjects in philosophy, sociology, and anthropology? Probably none. If you and all of us together would like to reflect upon this challenge.
We have been talking about the experiential learning, but in fact that if you go and you study the B.Ed curriculum, or you can say entity curriculum, hardly you find that there is any scope for the experiential learning. Then how can we expect the teachers who will give the experience? They go for just 2-3 months training, even if they don't go at all, and they sit at home and they get the certificate, they get service, and they talk about the experiential learning.
When will our governments also start looking at B.Ed and D.Ed colleges to give them programs like XSEED, where training programs start with hands-on? We're always taught about Bronfenbrenner and Piaget and Freud. Okay, fine. But who teaches us about hands-on heuristic level, who tells us about, Dewey? So we want that to happen so that we get a groomed teacher.
If you are an organization, if you're an individual, and if you're in this country, would you not feel compelled to do something? Do you stand by on the roadside and see your nation the way it is? Or would you want to go and do something?